and is open to the media and public. Notices were duly posted and the meeting was advertised in the Hunterdon County Democrat and Courier News. Formal action may be taken. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Bettman. Ms. Fiore.
Here.
Mr. Peach.
Here.
Mrs. Podgorski.
Here.
Mr. Wallace. Mrs. Wolf.
Here.
Mr. Sorelli.
Here.
Dr. Susiella. Ms. Hamilton.
Here.
For your absence.
Can we please rise for the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll now turn the meeting over to Dr. Hart for superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mrs. Hamilton. Just a little bit. Sure. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Today, we begin our Board of Education meeting by recognizing members of the 7th and 8th grade band for earning seats at the Central Jersey Music Educators Association Middle School Honors Band. You may recall that back at the March Board of Education meeting, we recognized our elementary honors band students from grades 4 through 6. These students, combined with the elementary students, make a total of 11 children from Reddington to compete at the regional level. This group of students competed at South Plainfield in March. Tonight, we call attention to the extraordinary efforts and the talents of the following musicians. If you're here, I have a certificate for you. So I'll call your name. Jimmy Casey. Autumn Connolly. Autumn, are you here?
Are you going to try to get a picture?
Later, maybe?
I didn't know if you want them to like, yeah, when they come up.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot.
Okay.
Well, maybe not too much. We'll see.
Maybe not.
Maybe we'll see. Bronwyn Downey, are you here? Bronwyn? Samuel Godin. Sam, are you here? And Morgan Presser. In addition, each year, the Hunterdon County Librarians Association presents to Hunterdon County Schools an award to students for their enthusiasm for reading and sharing books. They are nominated by their teachers and their librarians. These students demonstrate a passion for reading and are seen often visiting their public library to check out books. Our students who get the Hunterdon County Enthusiastic Reader Awards are Cora DePinto. Where are you here? Tristan Drain. Tristan. Elliot Kramer. Abby Weasel. Ryan Trapp. And Henry Walters. Who's it? Henry, are you online?
Yes, he's right here. Say thank you. Thank you.
Henry, we'll make sure we send this over to you.
I'm gonna send it to you. Okay. Thank you.
I want to point out too that tonight we're also joined by the three of our librarians. Mrs. Romano is here, Mrs. Zanardi is here, and Mrs. Taylor is here. Thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. Our schools are filled with student artists. This time we recognize students whose artwork was displayed at the Hunterdon Art Museum for Young Artists Showcase. The student artwork was selected by the museum to be on display from April 2nd to April 10th. The artwork included half self-portraits, pop art clay license plates, pop art clay piggy banks, and oil pastel paintings of dragon eyes. Our student artists are as follows: Gibran Ahmad, Anne Albrecht Smith, and Dylan Auger, Ludko Milan, Hunter Burns, hang on one second. This is yours. Congratulations. Sarah Ciarelli, Sophia Cross, Liana Dazukistron, Gabby Iberlino, Anya Karnani, Noah Kettner, Adrienne Mancusi, Kaylee Mirzajuski, Riley Muir, Satine Nader, Anna Badana, Krista Halter, Isabel Petrosky, Mia Sands, Sophia Slack, Lucas Stites, Olivia Stevens, Sienna Toral, Ellie Vargas, Dean Barangina, Jack Weissenberger, and Devin Wysocki. Okay. Mrs. Piero is here tonight as well. Mrs. Piero is the art teacher over at Redwood Middle School. And did you bring some art with you, Mrs. Piero, just
I
in
did,
case
just
some?
the ones that were left.
Okay,
So
wonderful.
I just was handing them out to
Some people. That's impressive.
Sure.
This is sixth grade. Wow. Sixth grade. Good go. Right? They did a really nice job. Olivia. And we just have a couple eyes here. Eva,
Oh, I love the eyes.
right?
Yeah.
This is Noah. Noah. I'm very proud.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The license, opera license is also very cool as well. They were on display, I know, at the Ready to Go School concert for the past couple of weeks. So, thank you. Last but certainly not least, we're thrilled to announce that one of our middle school students was presented with the Renaissance Award at the Paul Robeson Awards ceremony at Raritan Valley Community College on April 6th. This award is sponsored by the college's Paul Robeson Institute for Ethics, Leadership, and Social Justice. The awards are named in honor of Paul Robeson, a Princeton native who grew up in Somerville, and are given in 4 areas in which he excelled: scholarship, the arts, community service, and athletics. The very special Renaissance Award is given to students who excel in a number of disciplines. Our Reddington winner, Sean Souvenir, maintains high academic achievement, plays on various athletic teams, and is a member of the Viking band and participates in community service. He is the Renaissance Award winner for this year, and we congratulate Sean for his high achievement. Congratulations. I don't think Sean could make it tonight, but we do have an award for him as well. He was provided award, right? This is probably at
Yes,
Raritan Valley Community
Raritan Valley Community College has an award ceremony earlier this year where Sean and Mrs. Moffett, myself, and his parents.
wonderful. Great. I'd also like to point out to the board as well that Reddington Middle School hosted their 8th grade awards night on Monday. The awards were provided to our 8th graders who demonstrated things like academic excellence, good character, passions, and enthusiasm for content area subjects, and a myriad of other noteworthy achievements. It was a special night. I would like to say truly, while the difficulties that we've had over the past few years took center stage, I'm pleased to report to the board and to our community that our resilient students in 8th grade and those honored here tonight, and all of those who were honored throughout the school year, have maintained high levels of character as well as academic excellence throughout the past several years. And I'm very proud of our students and proud of everything that they've accomplished. So you should all be very, very proud, and everyone who's achieved greatly over the past couple of years should be very proud as well. So thank you so much for all of your hard work. To all of our students, we really appreciate it. We appreciate it. Congratulations. I didn't miss anything, did I? This was the. So the next on the superintendent's report is a safety and security presentation, and then we're going to move into ordinary board business. You're welcome to stay. I'm sorry, school librarians, is there anything you'd like to mention before we leave?
No, we're always very proud of our winners. We had an award ceremony on May 25th at the county library headquarters, where we had author Jordan Sonnenblick present and also speak with all the students and take pictures and sign books. And it was a really great night. We were just super proud of them and all of the students who were on.
Thank you. So like I said, next up is a safety and security presentation. You're welcome to stay if you'd like. You leave. It's okay. If your teachers here, feel free to take a photo outside.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Yes. And
I have to water, so.
oh.
Yeah.
So look at my cheek.
One side.
It's not right. Tired. Yeah.
You don't want to hear me. Good evening, everybody. Just to switch gears tonight, in the wake of the tragic events that occurred in Uvalde, Texas, I thought it would be appropriate to provide the board with an update in regard to safety and security, because we truly haven't talked much about it as a full board or as a community in at least a couple of years. COVID has taken center stage, so I think it would be appropriate for us to talk about this. I'm joined tonight by a couple of individuals. Don Race, our facilities manager, who is also our school safety specialist, is here tonight, and Sherry Kreil, who is a curriculum and instruction supervisor, is also one of our school safety specialists. I'm also joined by Lieutenant Isabella from the Reddington Police Department as well, who has been involved with us in recent conversations revolving around safety and security. So I'll begin tonight. Really, I like this quote. It's interesting to me, I guess, that there's a couple of events that have really transformed school safety and security, and this quote comes from President Obama shortly after the Sandy Hook shooting, which really speaks to the effort that's underway here in Reddington right now. It has always been underway here in Reddington, which talks about the job of keeping our children safe and teaching them well is something that we can only do together. And I'm proud to say that here in Reddington, we're very much doing it together as a board, as a community, as a school staff, as the police department is even joining us tonight. With the help of our friends and neighbors, the help of the community, and the help of a nation, we can do this together. So I'll start tonight with revisiting, unfortunately, the events from Parkland, Florida, and what we've achieved since 2018. So first and foremost was the development of a 3-year plan. This 3-year safety and security plan spanned the school years 18-19, 19-20, and 20-21. In the spring of 2018, this was shortly after the tragic events in Parkland, Florida, the Board of Education hosted a public forum to gather community input about efforts that could or should or might be considered in terms of safety and security. This was just around the time that I was coming on board as the superintendent back in 2018. Ideas from this community forum were, I think, if I remember correctly, Jason, you were there, every idea was written down, every note was taken, and the ideas that were generated were brought to the board and to the administration and committees of the board to review each and every item that was listed in that community forum. Items were selected for further review, and many of the items made it to our 3-year plan, which was developed. So the events of Florida convened a public forum, which then turned into administration and board discussions, which then turned into the 3-year plan, which I'll reference in a couple minutes. I should have printed this slide because it's very small and very light, but I will give you a couple of highlights from this. So first, we took everything that we considered from that public forum and put it over the course of 3 years, but for the purposes of tonight, I've divided them into 3 categories: facility upgrades, protocol development, as well as personnel and communication and training. Facility upgrades. The following things were done from 2018 to the present. These are all things that have been completed, by the way, as well. A classroom numbering system was put into place. You can see even on the windows and the doors in the schools, you'll see a number that corresponds to the classroom. Security camera enhancements occurred. We upgraded our security cameras. We upgraded our system. We added some cameras for places that were kind of dead zones or blackout zones so that we have more visibility. We had phone system upgrades that actually occurred just that summer and continue to be enhanced over the course of the year. Double entry vestibules were put in place. This was probably the crux of the most enormous portion of the plan, which was we had no double entry vestibules, which is the set of double doors that you enter each building through. That didn't exist prior to 2019. That was the largest part of our capital projects, and we completed the double entry vestibules with certain aspects and features to add to safety and security of our schools. We updated our access control card system. So these are the card swipes that the teachers and staff use to enter the buildings. This was updated. More access points were placed around the buildings to prevent teachers and staff members from propping doors open when students went outside or something along those lines. We added door alarms. Many areas of the building on windows, we added safety film, and we provided system upgrades to our public address system, to our PA system. So these are all the facilities enhancements that we completed over the past several years. In terms of protocols, we redesigned and redeveloped our safety plan to meet the new state guidelines at the time. That was probably a several year, if not year-long project where we went through our safety plan. If you ever want to take a look at it, the board has access to it. But it is a binder about this thick that also exists in paper in my office and the principal's offices as well, and Don's and Sherry's. Lanyard use for certain identification, not only staff members wearing badges, but being able to easily identify a substitute or a visitor or a guest to the buildings according to the color. The use of I Love You Guys Foundation as our standard response protocol, and Sherry will walk you through that in a minute. Training for the staff on the standard response protocol, and then an additional 0.5 police officer to patrol the buildings. Prior to 2019, we had one. We added another half-time officer as well. Under communication and training, we have developed and enhanced our relationship with the Reddington Police Department and their relationship with the buildings. This is not only through our former police chief, Lieutenant Isabella, but even our juvenile detective that's on staff at the PD, who is often involved in certain matters relating to middle school student behavior and the like. Our development of the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding with law enforcement, that solidifies the relationship between the Board of Education and law enforcement. We've updated our staff and trained them on the SRP, and we've extended that training to substitutes in the district and other support staff. We've even created online modules for that as well, so that substitutes that are hired or staff hired throughout the school year can watch videos, online modules for training. We've had multiple state, county, and municipal law enforcement walkthroughs. In fact, about 2 years ago, pre-COVID, the Department of Education Office of Emergency Management and Preparedness came and did unannounced visits to our schools, walked into offices, and we talked to the principal and asked them to call a lockdown without the staff or even the building principals becoming aware of that. So they got us a real vision into what it was like if at a moment's notice we had to call a lockdown or something like that in the buildings. We redesigned our website so that we can communicate to parents about safety and security protocols. And we actually completed a digital mapping project, which provides the prosecutor's office and our local police department with digital maps in real time of our buildings in case they need to navigate through our buildings. The 3-year plan, the status, we have approximately 80% of all of these action items are complete, and everything that I just reviewed with you are items that would complete. Some items, after further review with either law enforcement or the prosecutor's office or even the administration, were abandoned. And there's about 8% of items that are still left outstanding that are either under investigation or more long-term projects as well. So I'll turn it over to Sherry Kryl. She'll talk about security drills as well as our standard response protocol too. And Don, I'm sorry, Don.
Okay, good evening. So I'm going to just review with us the drill process that we have to follow that we're mandated to do during the school year. Right? At least each building, right? At least we have to have at least one fire drill and one security drill every month. Right? As part of that, those security drills, fire drill is just our evacuation. We're all taught since we're all this high that the bells and whistles go off, we evacuate the building. Right? So they've added that now the security drills, we're also required to do one security drill each month. As part of that requirement, we need to do 4 lockdown drills per year per school, 2 bomb threat drills per school, right? These are all per school. 2 non-fire evacuation scenarios. They could be something, weather related, something happens in the building, we need to evacuate the building, right? And then 2 other non-fire security drills, which follows our safety protocol. There's other types of drills that we can do, such as we're going to test our PA system today, or we're going to walk through in our classrooms. We're going to have the teachers go through, the process that we need to do. So we need to do that. So we track all this data, including fire drills, security drills. All that data is collected. It gets recorded. We have to report this to the county administration annually. And we also have to make sure that the Department of Education knows what we're doing.
As far as the protocols that no. Thank you. As far as the protocols, we follow the standard response protocol. This is from the I Love You Guys Foundation, which is housed out in Colorado. What's very important to know about it is it's simple and it's effective. The entire school districts in Hunter County use this method, as well as a lot of school districts in New Jersey. It's very, very popular in New Jersey, as well as around the United States, but predominantly in New Jersey and all of Hunter County. I just want to run through the 5 main protocols with you. The first one is lockout. Lockout is if there is a potential threat on the outside of the building. It could be for an animal, a robbery or something going on in town, in which we want to create a fortress in our schools. So we lock all outside doors, business as usual inside, but we don't let anyone in. So that's a lockout situation. A lockdown, I'm sure we're all pretty much familiar with at this point. This is when we actually have a threat inside of the building. We go into lockdown in our classrooms, and we have protocols and procedures for how we do that, locking the doors, where we place the kids, the security measures that are in place there. For the evacuation, we evacuate. This is the icon for either a fire or a non-fire evacuation. Like Don shared, we do have evacuations in which we need to leave the building for other reasons, and we do need to practice them as far as the state mandate goes, whether it's coming to another school or just going farther on school grounds. Maybe there's a gas leak or something in which we need to go even farther. The 4th protocol is the shelter in place. This one is mainly for us in using the standard response protocol. If there's a weather-related emergency or a situation in which we want to be interior building without windows, we want to make sure that we are away from windows for purposes of student safety. And the very last one, hold. This one is really for anytime we need to clear the halls in our schools. It may be a certain hallway or the entire school that we can clear the halls. Maybe there's a medical emergency or a problem in which we just don't want students wandering in the hall. So these are all of the drills that we can do. The lockdown and the evacuate are part of the state mandated drills. However, the other drills are to the choice of the schools to practice those as we go through, the school year as well.
So just a little bit more on the standard response protocol. You can see it. We have this map that's here. We have them in every classroom, right? Basically, they're in every classroom. They're in offices. You can always look around and you will find that. You will find what we were just discussing, right? They are on. Teachers have a small little card that's in their lanyard, right? That has the same information in it, right? They are readily available. And you look just about anywhere you will find them. Along with our standard response, standard or quick reference, which is also at every location where the other map is, has a little more information on each one of these different protocols. You can see if you look by this map here, each protocol has its own little set of instructions on how to do that. They all may be a little bit different. But the information definitely is readily available. And that's what we train with our students in the drills that we do, is these instructions. This year, our focus this year turned toward reunification. If we need to reunify our students either on campus or off campus for some emergency, using the standard notification method, the same SRP that we use for everything else. We've been working with our local law enforcement, first responders, right, on how the logistics, how we would do one of those reunifications if needed be. And the idea of reunification is just a very detailed process of reunifying students, getting accountability for students, and then getting them back to their parents. We're looking to possibly next year, we weren't able to do it this year. Next year, we're looking to see if doing some reunification, just so we can kind of walk through this process. We've never really walked through this process before, other than tabletop discussions and walkthroughs with the law enforcement. So we're looking to actually do one of these drills next school year.
And the goal really of the drill is to build muscle memory. We do have other protocols in place. That quick reference chart is a very good thing for teachers to have. In the case of emergency, when the stress and the nerves come into play, we have other things in the class. The numbering is on the outside of the doors for the law enforcement, but we do have numbering in the classrooms as well. So a teacher can identify what room they're in if they don't remember the room number, especially at the middle school if they're moving around, things like that. So we do have a lot of other things in place. We just gave you a little overview of that. So I'm going to go on to communication. We do communicate, as Dr. Hart shared. We do have an updated school safety and security website that's available on our district part of our page. And on that, we really just have for parents things like visitor procedures. We updated that with the vestibules back in 2019. And everything that is on there for parents that they need to know. Parent tips, just in case of emergency, what to do, not to come to the school immediately, to really wait for other communication from us. An overview of our drills, which is what we shared with you with the one fire drill and security drill. A quick overview of our safety protocols, just like we have shared, and a lot really more on reunification and the cards that are used. And as we get more into practicing that and informing parents of that, that will be an excellent resource for parents to go to. There's even a little, I love you guys just put out a little short video on just for parents what reunification looks like. And that controlled release, as well as how we communicate in the case of an emergency. In addition, the website also provides resources. It provides safe tech use at home, as well as how to help children cope with a tragedy. So it's really, the whole website's really geared to inform parents of our safety measures that we have in place, and we're constantly updating that to keep that as thorough and adding to it, like the new video that we just put on.
So in January 2022, earlier this year, they did revise the drill requirements for us to do. So now what we do now is that it requires that, along with some other increased security measures, that we notify parents and staff of, requires school districts to notify students, staff, and parents when a school security drill is conducted during the school day. Right. Additionally, students and staff are notified at the conclusion of the drill. It was just a drill, and there's no danger exists. And it's just a way to bring awareness to staff and parents that, hey, we did have a drill today. It was a non-emergency situation. We did have a drill. There was no danger. And just to make everybody know that we were doing drills.
And there's also, at the conclusion of our drills, we also do make an announcement to the students and staff as well, that it was just a drill, everyone's safe, everything is fine, just to alleviate any stress or anxiety within the students. And that's all part of that revised drill law that came out.
And is the notification to the parents, is that at any, like, by the end of the day, is there a timeline that happens?
Yeah, generally it's by the end of
At the end of the day, yes, that same
They get
day.
that notice the same day.
Thank you.
No problem. As far as district staffing, communication and training, Dr. Hart touched on a little bit in the 3-year plan. We do provide annual district staff training on the SRP. We do it for substitutes and all district staff. We do have it in person and on videos, and we did with the substitute modules, create the videos right in there as well. Just going over all of the procedures. One thing we do have that wasn't mentioned yet is we do have building emergency response teams. Each of our buildings has a group of the administrator and staff members that are going to be the lead in the case of an emergency. So they've received the most training and the meetings with us on that. Most currently this year in October on the in-service day, as Don shared, we did reunification training where we had Officer Gilmurray from the police department. And I presented the training on all of the steps of the reunification method with all of the BERT teams. We also got all the bins and all the supplies needed for each of the buildings, as well as our district one, if we needed to use it in the case of an emergency. And reunification really is just a a really advanced parent pickup because it's a controlled release of a lot of students at one time. So there's a set procedure on how to do that. I walked through that with all of the staff members. We did scenarios and all different things on that training, and I think it was very productive. The other thing that we did in October at the in-service, and this was something that was just kind of tabled when we, through the COVID, as Dr. Hart mentioned earlier, is Stop the Bleed training. We had the Hunterdon County Sheriff's Office here with many different people, even one parent in the district came to provide the training for our BERT team and anyone else who was interested and available. And that's really just that on-site, if there was a traumatic incident in a shooting or something of that nature, that we have the ability to try to provide help and assistance to anyone who needs it by doing that. So if you haven't heard of Stop the Bleed, I'd be happy to share more with you on it, but it's a very, important system that we have. We do have those kits available. The staff members, the BERT teams have them, all of the buildings have them accessible in their go bags. They're in the AED units and all of that in the building. So I think we're in good supply for that. Our building emergency response teams do meet with us as we need and also in the buildings as needed. We also have, in addition to that, a district, what we call BERT for short, for the Building Emergency Response Team meeting, and we do that quarterly. In that we have our district administrators as well as the administrator from the school building and representatives from that district BERT team. They get together with the law enforcement and we discuss topics, the new law, different things like that that come up and where we're headed. So that's all on the training and the communication that we have. And at this time, if anyone has any questions on that part, or we'll turn it back over to Dr.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Sherry. What's that? Yeah. Where do we go from here? This is clearly this is our unfinished work, like many things in education, right? We never quite reach the finish line with certain things, and I don't know if we've reached it yet with safety and security, because there's always improvement to be made. There's always enhancements that can be done. So on June 2nd, this was just last week, some of the preliminary conversations had occurred with township officials. The local police were here, building administrator Carol was able to attend, just to talk about opportunities where enhancements could potentially be made. But we're not finished. We talked about our 3-year plan, what I just reviewed with you. We talked about everything that we've accomplished, how we communicate, and areas to enhance and where opportunities might be. And we appreciate the expertise of law enforcement. We're educators. This has to be a collaborative effort because as educators, we don't know the specific tactics related to law enforcement when it comes to tragic events or incidents, and the expertise of those in law enforcement. Future meetings. This Board of Education meeting, as well as beyond, we need to continue this conversation as a board in terms of the enhancements that are possible or probable in terms of safety and security. The district leadership team has ideas as well. We need the input from the building principals who live this every day. Talking with Sherry and Don having expertise in school facilities. Our prosecutor's office and the New Jersey Department of Education, they've been great partners in terms of the enhancements we've done thus far, and they continue to be great partners for us. Bob Sensi is the individual's name at the Department of Education. He has been on site multiple times here in our district to provide insight to us. The Board Finance Committee is where much of these conversations happened in the past, because that's where that's where our facilities conversations happen. And we have to look at these, we have to look to make recommendations, develop an analysis of these recommendations in terms of what our next steps might be. And I believe that we should start talking about development of a new updated safety and security plan moving forward. What do the next 3 years look like? What do the next even 2 years look like in terms of enhancing safety and security in our buildings? So with that, I'll turn it over to the Board of Ed for any questions for any of us in terms of safety and security. The only thing that I'll mention, particularly for new board members, know that matters of safety and security, certain matters of safety and security are protected under executive privilege. There is information that we don't want out there publicly because it involves the safety of our students and our staff. So know if there are questions that we can't answer publicly, we can always set aside an executive session to talk about those items. So turn it over and give this back to you, Dan. And I'll take my seat and turn it over to the board for any questions you might have for any of us.
I had a question.
Please, Randy.
You know, hopefully it might fall under the exception you just mentioned.
We'll see.
How often is there a law enforcement officer at the school to respond to like a school shooting like what happened?
I'll say we have 2 officers, 1.5. That's public. Their detail depends on the day. It depends on what's going on in the schools. Our goal really is to have 2 officers on those school grounds and opportunities of vulnerability. I would call that arrival and dismissal, recess. Those are times where we do want more of a presence. We have 4 buildings, 2 officers.
Yeah.
Do the math. It's
So there may be times that it's not, there's somebody not here.
there are times, that somebody's not here, but there are specific details, coordinated between the school administration and then the local police as well.
I mean, is that something to look at? It just seems, whatever the cost is, it seems like something that, I don't know, we spend so much money on everything else, it seems like maybe that should be a priority.
I think it should be something to look at. We can definitely look at it. I think it's something that this board should consider. There is a financial cost to it, right? There's cost benefit analysis that has to be done with something like that. I think that we would be doing our due diligence by at least considering it, talking about it as an option, if we want to do any enhancements in that regard.
There were some takeaways that came from our collaborative meeting with the township committee and the police, which I guess will be coming out more in our finance meeting. I'm not sure which of those we might not want to share publicly just yet.
But certainly something to consider. Great point.
It's interesting that you mentioned the times of vulnerability being dismissal and morning arrival. But yet I'm thinking back at the recent unfortunate incidences, and I think none of those happened during either of those times. They were all when the kids were just in the middle of the day. So I'm wondering if we need to, maybe, because at least right now we have 1.5 officers for 4 buildings. So maybe the times, if those are the times that are seen as priorities, maybe we need to take a second look to see if those truly are the times when based on past tragedies.
That is a very good point. Does the I Love You guys, do they do any sort of analyses of specific vulnerability of, like, as was said,
Times during the day, is it early? Is it
times or entry points or whatever? it
So
is?
I Love You Guys actually does not have any analysis on that, but every time there is an incident, there's usually a report that follows and we learn from that and we evolve from that. So we form our procedures and continue to evolve and make changes as needed with everything. And that's typically, there have been certain times when events have happened. Now, as Carolyn said, that is changing. So that is a possibility, but there is not an analysis that they have available at this time. It's just taking a look at all of the reports, making adjustments as needed, just like the state of New Jersey. We're very progressive in the state of New Jersey, and they've already made those revised law enhancements just based on, the most recent events that have come, not the most recent, but very recent events that have taken place. So they're constantly working to enhance and strengthen the safety and security of the schools for everyone.
Sure brings up a good point. There'll be multiple things to learn out of Uvalde, Texas as well. We'll have to wait for the final report after their investigation, their analysis, but and things are out there already. Right? Was a door propped open? Was there an officer that was there that was absent that day? Right? Did they have one? Was he absent? Was he not present? Did he not see the individual in school? Should they have called a lockout because of the car accident or something like that happened just locally near the school, or those kinds of things? But we will learn from that, the opportunity to prepare based off of these.
They will do an investigative report, and it takes a while to do that. That's what happened in the Parkland incident that Dr. Hart mentioned before. And then we were able to read that and go over it, and then we can learn from that. We can see where failures were and learn and try to make an impact on things that we can do better.
For the short term, I will tell you as well, and to thank the Reddington Police Department, the township for One, immediately following Texas, I think that there was an obvious increased presence of police around our buildings. I saw it, the teachers saw it, appreciated it. I hope parents saw it. We made a concerted effort to make sure that the police were here and visible. And the tenant has, at least temporarily for the end of the school year, made sure that we have the 2 officers full-time so that they can at least both be in the buildings from now till the end of the school year, until we have a chance to really unpack some of our options as well. The presence has been great.
I think we all truly appreciate the partnership with our Reddington Police. Thank you.
So do we.
Thank you.
I have a question. I don't know what it'll fall under,
Please, Stephanie.
but in terms of vulnerabilities, understanding that especially our younger students have more opportunity to go outside. Would like a better understanding at some point in the future, the policies and the procedures for our teachers with door propping and things like that, that may happen during the day. And if there's advice from external sources as to what the best practices are, so we don't rob them of those experiences, but can do it in a safe way.
Door propping is a challenge. I mean, what I'm pleased to report is that the officers that do patrols check doors, will unprop doors, right? Just they'll do it if they see something that's open, but so they have all of those patrols as well. I think the key is, and Jason can speak to it a little more, the building principals have requested more card access points. So right, like this is the way to prevent that from
Yes,
happening.
that's exactly it.
Right?
What's the next step to solve that opportunity?
We're putting in some here and some at RMS this summer, but provided supply chain issues, right? Like all that, we've got some additional ones that are coming.
Yeah, we have multiple entry points already, but when we focused on the double vestibules, we wanted the primary visitor access to come through there. So we limited how many access points we had around the building, and the principals had input on where original additional storage would be. That would be near recess or other places that they would need to go in and out of. As the years have gone on, the principals have asked for 1 or 2 additional spots, and we have accommodated those each year. Currently, there's 2 requests to have 1 more, but we also evaluate those requests to make sure that we are not providing too many entry points. The students can always go through the double vestibule doors or any of the other entry points. It's more of a convenience. But having less entry points is good. We also have alarms on our doors when they're propped open. So there's a loud ringing sound that occurs when doors are propped open. So that was another measure of undertaking when we did the vestibules.
I obviously have no expertise in the area, but if you're putting in more key cards, it would seem to me that biometric locks would be more secure than key access. I mean, you have to put in some sort of electronic access point anyway. And a key card seems to me it could either be stolen either by force or by some other mechanism, but you can't steal somebody's fingerprints. And so as long as you're installing some sort of an electronic sensor, either to sense the key card or something else, if you could, it would take up having to, whether or not it would violate some union rules to take everybody's fingerprints. So I guess you probably have them already, but whatever. I think that should be looked at, because if somebody's outside and they say, "Give me your key card" at gunpoint, they're in. And so just a thought.
Thank
I
you.
mean, unfortunately, at that same gunpoint, they could say, "Put your hand on the." You bring up a great point, and I think it's something to think about and look at, but I don't know if it's
Foolproof. It's not foolproof, but unfortunately, there's nothing that is.
I think that the problem with that might be substitutes. Right? What happens with the substitute? Do they get
They get a specific color lanyard with the emergency response protocol on it, but they don't have a badge.
so they can't swipe it?
Unless they're long-term subs, like somebody, teachers out for a year and they're a long-term sub, they only choose that they would have to, all subs and visitors have to buzz in if they leave, they have to buzz back in.
Okay.
We have also walkie-talkies for communication. So anyone that's stationed outside for recess is walkie-talkies.
you bring up a good point. Maybe it's better to have somebody on the inside who does all the buzzing, if So it's not a key card, it's not somebody's finger, somebody actually is inside watching, you know, what's happening, and if they see somebody there, they either open the door or they don't. So it's. I don't know.
That is an excellent point. At every door, you could have a walkie-talkie holster. Somebody walks out, there's somebody with access in the central office. You know, buzz me into the back door or whatever door it is. And then that person in the central office could buzz everyone in.
We have cameras as well, like the cameras at the entry, egress doors. Have cameras as well. Good point.
I have a question about, are we, it's wonderful having Readington Police here, of course, people feel most safe, but are we considering like a school resource officer? Would that be an option as well? Because if the Readington Police are here, does that minimize, you know, their involvement in the town? I'm not sure if we're taking from their patrol unit, you know, I'm not sure how that works, but there could be other options, you know, like retired police officers.
I'll mention a couple of things, and Lieutenant, I'll allow you to talk about sort of what we're currently doing in terms of your police force being here in the interim. Somebody had a question, or maybe I wrote it in my board Google, and I keep using the term class 2 or class 3 special. So a class 3 special, ideally, it's a police officer that is designated for schools and schools only. I would synonymously use them with a school resource officer, but they're not exactly the same thing. So this is a retired police officer who is hired by the police department, but becomes the officer that's dedicated to the school, and that's a class 3. Class 3, correct me if I'm wrong, Lieutenant, cannot be pulled for any other detail on your police force. They are solely for the schools.
Right.
A class 2 is similar, primarily like John as a class 2 is primarily schools, but can be pulled for other police detail. So those are our 2 class 2 / class 3 officers. The flexibility with the second officer that we have being in class 2 is he can come and work for the schools during the day, and then at night, if you need somebody, you know, at the township committee for a township meeting, you can have him there as well. He could be used in a dual role. If additional officers is considered, you know, we would have to have a lengthier conversation about it, but I would say certainly this would be class 3 or class 2 officers that would be more dedicated for the school. Currently, though, Lieutenant, you can talk to how your patrols are dispatched, knowing that schools are still open, and we've requested and you have honored our request for an additional police presence. You know, what kind of, you know, directives that you provided to them, things like if you have a report to write, do it in a school parking lot. Like if you're driving by a school, do a patrol. You know, I imagine that that's what it is, but I don't want to speak for you.
The special officers that we have, the class 2, both the class 2 and the class 3 that we do have are our retired officers. And almost all special officers throughout the state are retired officers. The benefit, and I won't get into a big explanation, the benefit of a younger officer, a brand new officer getting hired as a specialist would be more or less a temporary position for him. He's seeking long-term employment, and he takes a special position as a short-time employment. And that would obviously be ideal for school because there's too much procedures and so forth to learn in school. Our full-time officers are on normal patrol. We have a 3-man minimum for the police department. We usually have 4 to 5 guys working on a normal day. That's not including 3 detectives, 2 administrative lieutenants, or 2 administrative officers in the building, and a traffic officer. So that brings us up to about 10 on any given day. The officers are encouraged and actually required now to stop at schools. And that requirement started after, obviously, this last tragedy. I say it's required because for the most part, the officers that are assigned to the schools, we control the schools. But now officers are encouraged to actually get out, walk through the schools. If they have to do a report, if they have to make a phone call, they're encouraged to go into the parking lot and be seen and be visible, not only by the school, but anybody else driving through. And that's kind of our normal procedure right now. It will be for the rest of the year, and then moving forward will be an entire different discussion.
Lieutenant, we even had a conversation a week ago, maybe something like that, where I called you on your cell phone, and you were like, "Well, you're 6th grade. We're having a great time at a kickball game, right?" Like just down the road, and I called you on your cell, and sure enough, you were right here while students were.
As far as the outside activities, Dr. Hart provided myself, and I provided to all the officers the remaining outdoor activities for all the schools. We all know that during the end of the year, you know, teachers, schools let the kids get out more, have more fun days outside. We have a list of them posted on our headquarters, and officers, you know, are made aware of that procedure for those locations, be it outside here, Pickle Park, Summerwood Park, and they will be stopping by. I can't guarantee that they'll be there for the whole duration, but again, they're encouraged to eat their lunch there. They're encouraged to get out, certainly and talk, maybe not participate, kick ball. You don't want to
Welcome to it.
But again, they're made aware, and they are there, not just to make people feel good, but also to keep everyone safe, obviously.
This is not the end of the road. You'll be hearing more about safety and security in committee, executive session. The leadership team will discuss it as well. And we'll keep you posted on developments for the next iteration of our safety plans. And are there any other questions? We'll get to public, your next public participation is next.
All right, we're now open to the public, limited to action items on the agenda.
Hi, Jacqueline Hindle. I have a kid at the high school and two in Hollenbrook School right now. With regard to this, I recently was listening to a news segment that discussed children staying in place during an active shooter incident versus fleeing if they have the opportunity to do so. And the indication was that fleeing in certain situations might be more appropriate or might be safer, might result in a better result. So my question is that part of the protocol that is discussed? Is that something that is practiced with the children or any part of the thought process?
Self-evacuation is discussed. We do share it with the teachers. We make it the teacher's discretion if that's the safest plan. We just make sure that they bring their students with them and they go to the nearest location. I try to make it fun for them. But we try to encourage them as soon as they get to the nearest residence place to call 911 and be accountable for have all their students accountable and let everyone know where they're at. So yes, we do have that. Thanks. No problem.
We did have one comment from Justina Ryan. Do you have that?
You want me to read that?
Sure.
Well, I have to find it now. I'm sorry.
Okay, so this comment says, I am unable to attend tomorrow's Board of Ed meeting due to a work event. However, I see Dr. Hart is presenting on school safety. My question is, are there any plans to improve the cellular service inside our schools? Bennington Middle School especially, as many of the students have phones and would be able to call for help if a teacher is unable to. And that's submitted from Justina Ryan.
Thank you.
Increased cellular service was actually on that original 3-year plan that I mentioned, and part of the 8% of the plan that's still under investigation does include enhanced cellular service in the buildings where there is less service. I believe we provided the finance committee with a status update maybe a couple of months ago. It's not exactly a quick or easy process to get a cell tower put on our property if that's the way it's going to go, but it's currently under investigation. I'll ask Jason to provide any insight.
Yeah, so we went through this in detail when we had our original security plan. And I don't want to go through the options considered, but what we did was we looked at how someone could communicate in each room in the entire district with the main office and exterior to make sure that was able to do easily, which we have in place, as well as communication within the building and with emergency officers. So that is currently in place. But with regards to cellular service, obviously we live in a rural area. Cell service is not the greatest around the township, in certain parts of the township. We do have and allow Wi-Fi calling inside of our buildings. But there are other measures that were looked at long-term to increase regular cellular service around the building, but realize that there's complications with even putting in a cell tower or other measures because of the nature and design of school buildings with block wall. So we have a very thorough plan in place currently that includes radios as well as phone lines and Wi-Fi calling that allows every single space to have active communication when needed. But we are looking long-term. We actually talk regularly, monthly, for the past 6 months with the township about expanding that in the near future. And I think we're going to be discussing it more in finance.
Thank you.
Can I follow up on that? Would the children know how to access your main office if the teacher were incapable of doing that?
I don't want to speak on protocols with teachers because I don't do the training on that, so I don't know the exact answer to that, but there are mechanisms in place in each room that allow for that, as well as for dialing 911.
We made our phones very easy once in the classroom. Very easy. If there's an emergency.
We had that discussion that they might be a little too easy. Yes.
Middle school, Christine, you can say, I don't know how often it happens, but there's always that like, yeah, and then somebody comes on the PA, teachers, check your phones.
All right, if there's no other public comment. Moving on to correspondence, we have an email from AR regarding contact tracing. Hi, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the approval of the administrative reports. Can I get a motion to adopt 1.01 to 1.03?
So moved, Camille.
Second, Carolyn?
Do we have any questions or comments on the reports? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mrs. Betterman,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Beach,
Yes.
Mrs. Wyborski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
Ms. Wolf.
Yeah.
Mr. Zwirling,
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello,
Yes.
Ms. Hample.
Yes. Moving on to the minutes, can I get a motion to adopt 2.01 and 2.02?
So moved, Carolyn?
Second.
Second, Camille.
Any questions or comments on the minutes? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Betterman,
Yes.
Mrs. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Mrs. Wyborski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Zwirling,
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello,
Yes.
Ms. Hample.
Yes. Moving on to finance facilities, can I get a motion to adopt 3.01 to 3.29?
The motion, Randy. Or so moved, Randy.
Second, Carolyn?
And we have a committee report.
Yes, we do. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday, May 31st. And the first topic discussed were our general insurance renewals. Presentation by Lee Nessler, who is our insurance broker, talked about SAFE, SAIF, standing for School Alliance Insurance Fund. There was a discussion regarding the insurance renewal and risk management. We are currently completing year 2 of a 3-year commitment. The increase in insurance renewal is 5.6%, which is below what was anticipated. The second topic involved 2022, 2023 capital projects, including the Hollenbrook School roof, and there's no substantial update. The project is on schedule to start after school ends. The second topic involved the Three Bridges School cupola. The cupola was ordered. We need about 4 or 5 days to install, anticipating happening in August, and it's being custom made. Third topic involved the curriculum office. Supplies have been ordered. The doors may come early. The windows have a long lead time.
And hopefully the demolition will start in late June. This should be completed by September. The next topic involved maintenance reserve projects. The Hollenbrook School HVAC rooftop unit might be abandoned due to the cost. We'll revisit this a quote solicitation in the fall. Then we talked about some IT projects, including outdoor classrooms, which are on schedule to complete over the summer, excluding Wi-Fi access points, and furniture has been ordered. The next IT project involved swipe card scanners. There's a significant supply chain issue here, not likely will be completed in the summer. We next talked about the Hollenbrook School stage sound, which there's a significant supply chain issue, and that will also not likely be completed this summer. The last IT project we talked about were the board conference room, as well as another supply chain issue, and there'll be partial completion this summer. It's a custom solution that's really creating the delays. The last IT project, or the last topic under maintenance reserve, with the remainder of maintenance reserve projects are progressing and including a copier project that's on schedule. We also talked about the Three Bridges School Detention Basin project. It's funded through donations, Rutgers University's the engineers, and at this point, we just need to select a vendor. The project needs to be completed by mid-September, and we're also working with the town. The next topic involved our breakfast program for the 22-23 school year. Breakfast will not be free to all. Students will have to go through the cafeteria line to receive breakfast, and we plan to continue the breakfast program and assess things mid-year. Students may be eligible for free or reduced breakfast meals. The next topic was substitute rates for the 22-23 school year. There was a new proposal to hire a substitute custodian. This would be cost effective, and the sub-custodian can fill other jobs, including snow removal, maintenance of grounds after hours, and covering rec programs on the weekends. And then we set our next meeting for Thursday, July 7th.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments on the action items or the minutes? There was a lot.
I hope you can hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I had a question on the breakfast program in general. Is that just the funding, the federal funding for that is no longer in place? Was that just a COVID grant that we were able to apply for?
Funding, breakfast program is run through the federal, it's a federal program, so we do get funding for students who are eligible for free reduced meals. It was available to everybody because of COVID, but now that we're kind of out of COVID, the discussion really revolved around, starting fresh the new school year and just having it be available again to the students who will be eligible.
For students that pay as well.
Oh, yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah, you can certainly purchase breakfast as well.
Yeah.
So it's available to everybody if you want to either purchase it or you would get it free or reduced cost. Which is, of course, the way it was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Right. Well, no, we didn't have breakfast.
Oh, we started breakfast recently. That's
Yeah.
true.
Right.
So it's like what lunch was like.
Right, yeah.
Either buy or free.
Yeah.
Just to make a comment on that, I think the, in terms of equity and just accessibility for our students, I just really like having that program. I know that obviously it's, not feasible to have that included in our budget, but just something if there was funding available again to keep an eye on that, apply for it if we can.
Yeah, well, that's actually what we all agreed, that we wanted to keep it. It was a pilot program last year anyway, I believe. And it went well. It was well received. So that's why we wanted to continue it moving forward. And we likely will.
I mean breakfast for all, not a paid.
Oh, that's probably not likely.
We'll investigate, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we don't have like lunch for all.
Yeah, the federal subsidy came through COVID funds, the federal funds that were passed, the stimulus funds. Those expire. The state of New Jersey has been discussing legislation to make food free for all students. That has not passed and has stalled. But I do know that our current provider, Mashios, is advocating and has a seat at the legislative table. So it may pass eventually.
Is breakfast served during the normal school, time?
Yeah, my understanding is that they come in the morning and they, well, I've actually changed. It's gonna change, you said this year, I think, is they have to go through the cafeteria line this year. But last year, when they came in, they were, I think, handed a bag that had a snack in there and milk or juice or something. And they went to their class, and that was actually one of the things that was discussed because it interfered with instructional time.
Right.
Yeah.
That's my question. So for next year, if we're going to have the lunch kind of way of doing things in the morning, will that be prior to school?
Not prior to school, but they might go to the cafeteria first. I think the principals, I would imagine the administration would talk about, how to handle it in each building, but they're gonna have to now go to the cafeteria, I
Yeah.
believe, to,
I see that taking quite a bit of time, if there's enough kids, that would that
Yeah.
cut into instruction time?
well, that was, especially with the younger ones, they had to open up juice and the milk for them and all that. But it's like anything else, a cost and benefit, it's nice to have the student have something in their belly.
Oh, I
That helps, that enhances their instruction as they know. But yeah, that's something that we just work around.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've kind of shown that student performance has increased when they are fed breakfast programs. And I just think it's something that we should really keep an eye on and not have it as a specific students are pulled out to go get breakfast and others are staying in their classroom. If it's something that where everyone has access to it, I think that would be a really nice thing for us to provide.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Beverly,
Yes.
Mrs. Jory,
Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Mrs. Bogorski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Zerilli,
Yes.
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Ms. Sample.
Yes.
Passes.
Moving on to education technology, can I get a motion to adopt 4.01 to 4.07?
So move, Randy.
Second, Carolyn?
And we have a committee report?
Yes, we do. Is it possible to mute the Reddington Public Schools account as I'm reading this, just because online we get feedback? All right, is that better? Oh, yes, much better. Thanks for those of us here at home. Okay, the Ed Tech Committee met on May 27th. We first had a technology update. We had Mrs. Barca gave us a presentation about coding in grades K through 3. It was a video presentation by students. We also had Mr. Belsky give us an update on multi-factor authentication, different security measures taken by the district. And these are requirements for the district's insurance carrier. So these are happening now to be put in place by the start of the next school year. We also got an update for the technology infrastructure and service delivery plan for 22 to 25 school year or timeframe. It has been completed. It's an internal assessment document put together by the district technology department, and it's available by request. If you have any questions, certainly talk to the technology department. Next, we did a curriculum revision update. We received a curriculum revision update by Mrs. Pouch. We talked about the science curriculum for grades K through 5. The biggest change in this was the insertion of climate change as opposed to global warming. So this was really just an update in language. There were additional updates that we discussed are going to be incorporated in the next version this summer to provide district green initiatives, including also into that curriculum. The other changes that were put into this version were the career ready, career practices, life literacy and key skills, and also the computer science sections. Next, we talked about the Summer Teacher Academy catalog presented by Mrs. Kryl. There was great registration turnout so far for Summer Teacher Academy. The district is offering 24 courses and a book club. The district is also planning for new teacher orientation, mentor and buddy training, and leadership academy. Also, Mrs. Kreil gave a quick update that the summer enrichment attendance is going very well. Next, we discussed the summer accelerate learning plans. Dr. Brown discussed the contract with Litera for ELA. The district has broadened the criteria to allow for more students to participate over the summer. The summer criteria includes students currently in intervention, ELL, and those 2 or more grade levels behind on the iReady diagnostic. Of the 215 families invited for summer, 85 accepted. 10 more were invited to bring the number to 95 participants. Space is limited due to Litera. Next, we heard from Mrs. Pouch. She updated the committee on the summer accelerate plans for math. The district utilizes teachers from in-house for the math program. Litera is piloting a math tutoring program, which could be a possible future resource for the district. The criteria for participation this summer in math is students with a grade average of 75 or below, and or those 2 or more grade levels behind on the iReady diagnostic. 75 invitations were sent to families. 25 families have already accepted the services. Mrs. Pouch will be following up with families who did not respond to the invitation, and others may be invited. Since the district is utilizing in-house teachers as tutors, there is limited space for this program. Next, we talked about the compensatory education law for special education. This is a new law that was passed in March. It ensures that students with IEPs from March 2020 through September 2021 received appropriate services according to their IEPs, and that students made progress toward their goals. In order to assess if students receive the adequate services, the child study teams need to go back and hold annual meetings, even if they have already completed the meetings for this year, and they need to fulfill any obligations that may have been missed. The district was ahead of this law already by providing one-on-one tutoring, extended school year option with an additional hour of support, and the Accelerate Learning Program. The district anticipates that some services may and will need to be provided to fulfill services that were missed during the pandemic. Next, we talked about the RMS study skills for special education. The district will be offering a new class to eligible special education students in the fall. The class will be a study skills class focusing on study habits, organization, planning, and executive functioning. This will replace an elective or world language course. No additional staff will be required. And lastly, we talked about the text I Am Jazz by Jazz Jennings, and this would be for grades 4 to 5 for read aloud or classroom library. And then we set our next meeting for June 16th at 8:30 a.m. Oh, and our next topics, I just closed it, hold on. The topics for that meeting will be the agenda for the DEI leadership training and the health and PE presentation, so we can begin to discuss that for the standards that are changing for next year. Whew, that's it. And you're still muted.
Fiore. Thank you, Mrs. Fiore. Any questions or comments on the committee report or the agenda items?
Yeah, I have actually comments on 2 different ones, but I'll just handle one at a time. I have some comments on 4.01, and first of all, I'd like to apologize for not having prepared this earlier so I could discuss this with Dr. Hart and Ms. Fiore more extensively prior to the meeting. But as Mrs. Fiore mentioned, and I've had some correspondence with Dr. Hart, that there are anticipated further amendments to the addenda to this curriculum, as well as curriculum writing. So the document that we're seeking to approve tonight is unfinished. As such, when you add something as an addendum, people often don't read it. I mean, at least that's, my the way that I often see people handling documents. I understand that the goal is we have a lot of curricula to review, and it would be nice for this to be done and off our plate. But the committee, the board, I should say, funded the sustainability curriculum item. That really, I don't see that that's been, it couldn't have been completed yet because it was scheduled for this summer. We have staff that are currently undergoing in professional development training that would be relevant for such curriculum item. And so, on one hand, it would be expeditious for us to pass this now. On the other hand, I'm a little ill at ease to pass something that is acknowledged by both the chair of the committee and as well as the superintendent as a work in progress. That's my thoughts.
Can I respond?
Please.
Yeah. The document that you're looking at, I don't know if Sarah is online as well, is complete. What's happening over the summer, so we've decided to put an investment into ensuring that we take our field trips, our partnerships, and sustainability and put it into all curriculum documents. And I can look for it, I should bring it up. So we have committees that are working on that. Just like we handled the accommodations document, this was several years ago, Carol, you might have been on Ed Tech at the time, where there were certain things that we had to add to curriculum documents. We were taking not only science, but every curriculum in the district, and we were handling it as creating an attachment or having an addendum be approved by the board that would have all of the references that you talked about, our partnerships, our sustainability efforts, and our field trips, virtual and otherwise, that would be included in every curriculum document. The reason why the leadership team and the curriculum supervisors decided to do it that way is because curriculum documents are developed by grade level and by content area. The addendum that we were talking about including is going to be done more grade level that can be used in multiple curriculum documents. So instead of taking things and putting them into individual curriculum documents by grade level, by content area, we were going to have these attachments that we can add to these documents that would be approved separately once they're completed in the summer. So there will be, if we choose, and this is completely up to you, if we choose to not approve the science document tonight, I can bring it back at the end of the summer. There will be no changes. This will appear on a list of documents with the other document that's going to be the partnership, sustainability, and field trips document, which is going to act separately than this, but will be included.
You are the professional. I am not. So I will take that at face value.
Okay.
Understand that it was the board's intent that sustainability be included in the curriculum. I think that is reflected by the extremely hard work that I guess it's reflected by Ms. Ouch in the document that's clear the case. I would just note that the word sustainability does not appear. Based on word search.
Could very well be true. I haven't done this before.
I did the simplistic, and I used the word simplistic purposefully. Has not been found. But anyway, so I take that at face value. I've expressed, my personal desire. I hope that others.
Well, why don't we put it off? You mind if we put it off?
If we do, that's fine. The word sustainability won't be in that document. I don't think it'll be in an attached document that will go with that document. Right?
If it's somewhere, if that is conveyed in the educational content,
It will.
that was, the purpose of this.
And so my understanding is that the $5,000, the curriculum writing that the board wants to have happen, it hasn't happened yet, and this is not a part of that. This is separate from that writing that we want to have happen.
Well, I think it was actually, yes, I think it was, that's not the exact amount of money, but yes, I don't remember the exact amount. But it is not reflected in what we have in front of us. Is the bottom.
And it won't be until the end of the summer for the science curriculum or for any other curriculum. We've got a number of documents that will be approved in summer. They won't reflect what the board is asked to be reflecting the documents until we complete the document that I'm mentioning.
So then, if this is gonna remain the same, then all we need to do is, so the board will not have to be tasked with rereading this document for those who have already read it. It would now just be that additional document, so
That's right.
additional work would not be created. Then if that's, you know, I don't see issue with passing it as it is, so long as, you know, we know that we will be receiving that other supplementary document.
Yes. Promise. There will be. It's work underway. You've seen a draft. It's there.
Well, and you know, and hopefully it will include the professional, the people who have been, had the benefit of the professional development sections.
Yeah, we've had, for our strategic planning committees, we've had those working groups for partnerships, inquiry, and social awareness under which multiple sustainability occurs. And those working groups are also working on those documents as well.
Thank you.
You had another question?
I just wanted to say that on 4.04 on the bioswale project, that I just wanted to again thank Principal Higgins for her and the other people who work with her for the incredibly hard work they put into the Sustainable Jersey grant, getting $10,000. I hope that the project comes off exactly as planned, because it would be a wonderful asset to this district, the community, and yeah, good luck.
Well said, thank
Yeah.
you. Any other questions or comments?
Go ahead. I had a question. Beth, you mentioned that there's a new study skills class that kids could take instead of a language. Is language requirement though for all students in eighth? What is that? Did you say a specific grade? I don't remember. Was it eighth grade or special ed, or what was it?
Special ed.
Special ed.
Special ed,
Yeah.
that they could have a study skills class. So does that mean that they would not then have a language? Is that right?
That's great.
Okay, so then the language is not a requirement then for all students? Is that right?
It's for certain I don't know if Stacy's on the call, but for certain eligible special ed students at the
So
middle
they
school
can.
level. Yeah.
I am on the call. Yeah, I'm just not, my hair looks a mess, so I'm not showing myself. Yes, so we can through the IEP process waive any type of class. Many of the children do choose to waive the foreign language because they can always pick it up in high school. You know, starting as a freshman, first year Spanish student or a first year German student. So it can be waived through the IEP.
So is it specific, so in general terms, Mrs. Fiore mentioned special education student, but more specifically students with an IEP?
Correct, yes. It is for children with IEPs.
Right, okay, thank you. I wasn't, so that class is only available then to special ed students?
Correct.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes, just a clarifying question.
Sure.
The addendum that you referenced that we'll vote upon later, is that considered part of the curriculum or a separate entity?
It'll be board approved as a curriculum.
As a curriculum.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Let me see if I can find. It's in Brightliv too, right? Like, that's the thing. I know it's good. But you can keep going. I'll see what I can.
Any other comments or questions? All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Bevan,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Beach,
Yes.
Ms. Bogorski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace.
Gonna jump off.
You have to jump on.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mr. Rowling,
Yes.
Dr. Cerciolo,
Yes.
Ms. Zan.
Yes. Moving on to personnel, can I get a motion to adopt 5.01 through 5.41? So moved, Caroline.
Second, Camille?
And we have a committee report,
We do.
my favorite one.
Mine too, short and sweet. So the committee met actually on June 6th. We had to reschedule after the power outage of June 2nd, I think was the original date. Yeah, June 2nd. And so we met on Monday, June 6th, and we discussed staffing issues for next year, including looking through a list of open staff positions and special education teacher need. We spoke about custodial substitutes, the transportation staff. We looked at job descriptions for the supervisor of transportation and the assistant dispatcher clerk position. We spoke about the RTA contract.
Sure.
That's new. Other personnel matters. And then we also spoke about the agenda items of new hires, summer program hiring, for example, ESY, subrate superintendent to hire between board meetings and the RTAA contract and other standard agenda items. And we scheduled our next meeting for Tuesday, July 12th at 8:45.
Thank you, Mrs. Pogorski.
You're very welcome.
Any questions or comments on the committee report or the 41 action items? Mrs. Betterman?
I have a couple questions and like Eric, I apologize. I could have asked these ahead of time, but I'll do it here. On 5.17 for the team leaders, there are no team leaders for the elementary schools, White House and Three Bridges that have a contractual rate for that additional responsibility. Is that right?
That's correct. There is no delineation of the contract for elementary team leaders at White House.
Do they use team leaders at those schools? That would explain it.
Yeah.
And then I had another for 5.19. I think just the year is wrong on that one. It says for 2021-22. Is it retroactive for this year or is it for next year?
I'm sorry,
519.
5.19.
Yeah.
This is retroactive this past school year.
Okay.
One of those teachers was out on maternity leave, so the other one filled in for the time that she was out on maternity leave.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Easy ones. Any other questions or comments? Not hearing any. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Betterman,
Yes.
Ms. Fury,
Yes.
Ms. Peach,
Yes.
Ms. Pogorski,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace, Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Rowling,
Yes.
Dr. Sicielo,
Yes.
Ms. Zample.
Yes. Moving on to communication, can I get a motion to adopt 6.01, 6.03?
So moved, Carolyn.
Second.
Second. And we have a committee report?
We do. That's me. Okay. Sorry, I have to pull it up. So we reviewed several policies and you can see them all on the agenda for today. The first one we looked at was a long-standing agenda item, public relations policy. We reviewed some sample regulations and agreed that there's no changes proposed at this time. We reviewed policy 5520, disorder and demonstration. No changes are proposed, but that policy had a date of 2009, so we're putting that forward for first reading tonight. And then we had several policies from an alert, policies for examination for cause, updates to the harassment, intimidation, and bullying policy, updates on maintenance and repair policy, and a cooperation with law enforcement agencies. So all of those are on the agenda for first reading. We talked about policy 9130, which is for public grievances. And the committee did an initial review, but we felt like we needed more information. So that we're going to consider at our next meeting. So there's nothing going forward at this time related to that policy. We tabled a couple things. Regulations got tabled. We had a lot of policies to get through. So we tabled a couple things. A discussion about regulations was tabled. And Dr. Hart presented a proposed communications plan for the following school year, 22-23. And we decided we would review those offline and talk about those in more detail at our next meeting. And we discussed the press releases that are due for the rest of this school year, which let's see, for June was final budget approval and Governor's Educator of the Year awards and our 8th grade graduates. And I definitely saw those in the Ready to News when I got that. And then for July, it's summer reading and math for families. So those are forthcoming to close out this communication plan year. And then we have our next meeting currently scheduled for Wednesday, July 27th at 4 p.m.
Great. Thank you, Mrs. Betterman. Any questions or comments on the minutes or the action items?
I just had a question about the HIB. I don't know if it's for Jody or Dr. Hart. So that it's being revised because of the amendments to the statute?
Yeah.
Okay.
There were amendments to the statute.
It just tracks that, right?
Yeah.
Do we ever gone beyond that at all?
We did not in this particular policy. We didn't go anywhere outside of the statute in terms of policy. Major changes, Jody jogged my memory, have to do with a centralized state reporting form, an anonymous online reporting form from the state, samples of consequences for students, and most of our conversation revolved around including the clause that allows for principal preliminary determination of HIB. So that not all cases of potential HIB after the preliminary determination move to full investigation, but rather there's a two-way process, preliminary determination or full investigation, and that was discussed and agreed upon the committee to move it forward.
But that comes right from the statute?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Not hearing any, can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Betterman,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes.
Mr. Beach,
Yes.
Mrs. Pogorski,
Yes.
Ms. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Rowling,
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello,
Yes.
Ms. Sample.
Yes. All right, moving on to unfinished business. We have board training with Judith Wilson. Can we table that until this meeting for all of our new board members to complete their governance one training? So Dr. Hart and I had talked offline regarding some potential ideas for ways that we could do some full board training, not like it was last year, where last year the feedback was that it was very similar to the governance one training. So we're looking at more of a retreat type of thing. So I think I'll turn it over to Dr. Hart, who has some more ideas.
When you say it like that, of course I do. So some of the conversation that we had revolving around Judy Wilson coming in was certainly our intent to avoid her training being a repeat of governance one, which I think everybody has taken up until this point, or at least begun. But rather more of a workshop where we could talk about how we want to operate as a board, how we want to approach certain things as a board, how we want to set goals for next year, the things that we value, the things that we'd like to see out of next year, maybe even germane to my evaluation that we'll talk about later, your self-assessment, rather than it being training, like how the board should function, because we function very well, but maybe goals that we want to set, operating as a team, how we want to communicate with the public, and some new or novel ideas. I would probably use the word, instead of retreat or some training, the word retreat. You know, we order dinner, something like that, sit down, have our usual board meeting, take a break, have dinner, and come together and do more like a board retreat and have a discussion around some of those topics so we can set some goals for the future. Did I capture some of what we talked about? I'll add that she's moving central.
I don't know.
She may be working with another local district in very much the same format to talk about goals, retreat-like items, board function, communication, and some other items that perhaps we would like to discuss as well.
Do we know when she would be working with this other district?
She might be working with them for 2 meetings in the month of August.
Okay, interesting. I was just curious if we would want to tailor ours based on theirs, but if theirs is in August, that would make it hard for us.
We could also we could do a special meeting in August. We could push it back to the August meeting, and we could do it however the board would like to do it.
Yeah.
I think, I guess the only thing I would add, and maybe this would be helpful to all of us as well, is we have some topics coming up, right? Sex ed curriculum is going to be a topic coming up, some of these kinds of things. And maybe we ought to talk about, as a team, as a group, have a retreat, talk about our values, talk about how we want to communicate these things. How do we want to approach hot topics, difficult issues, those kinds of things. And maybe she could help facilitate that for us. In addition to our ordinary communications with the public, how we operate between committees and setting norms for committees, as well as how committees report out to the full board, topics like that.
Isn't that gonna be a meeting though?
So
Doing
it is a meeting, right? So anytime we do a workshop and we gather as a full board, it has to be open to the public. So it would still be subject to everything related to an open public meeting. The public
So
can
if
attend.
anybody wants to sit here all night and,
Yeah.
watch us chat,
Mhm.
then they're welcome to do so.
that? Well, they have to have the whole ability to comment.
What's that?
They have to have the ability to comment and all that.
Of what the,
Yeah.
well, the
we-
Google, we don't have to do,
No,
we don't have to do
we
that.
don't have to record.
Well, I mean, they can stand up and make comments like they do.
At the end.
Okay. I've not done my initial training yet. So I don't know, it's a little premature for me.
I
In
thought
my
you were-
defense, it was today and it was canceled.
I was gonna
So,
say, I thought it was the
Jason-
beginning of June.
Jason has 7. I was gonna do it today, just knock it out.
Yeah.
Because of COVID, they canceled.
Did they? I thought it was all virtual. Or is it in person?
No, I picked the
You
in
picked it
person
in
just
person.
to
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
knock it out.
That's a shame.
Do you have a new date? Or are you gonna do it online?
So, yeah, I think that's the only,
Okay. So,
so.
okay, well, so it would be in
Fine.
July. Do we want to take a straw poll on who is interested in doing the retreat? Kind of, I guess, maybe raise your hand. Can we do that?
Is it after July 19th meeting now? 'Cause I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's another thing, right? Like, cause July 19th, I'll be here, you might not, but then August, I won't be, you will.
We could do this, we could establish, are we interested in doing some sort of summer retreat? Question 1.
Which we got a yes on that, and I'm gonna assume that Beth raised her hand in there. Yeah.
There you go.
Question 2 could be, do we want to attach it to a board meeting, like a July or an August meeting? Or is there a more convenient, better other time that we would like to do it at as well? That could be the second question. The July meeting is lighter. So I feel like we could do our ordinary board business at 5, and they start earlier too. So we could do our ordinary board business at 5, and we can recess. We could do dinner or something. Keep saying that because it revolves around food. It's like the Italian food, right? And then we can do our retreat, like an hour-long retreat or something.
You're not sure about July 19th yet, or?
It's I'm on vacation, but that day I'm not going to be able.
Okay, so you're out. Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's okay, but certainly move forward.
I don't want to hold anything up. If it works for everybody else.
I don't know how to, how we picking, I guess,
Keep it July 19th.
Right.
April.
okay, and you can, okay. All right, July 19th, straw poll.
I won't be here anyway.
Oh, you're not either.
I'm gonna have to miss it. It's
Okay.
only a week.
All right, well,
Trading.
It's either my daughter misses dance or.
no, so we'll have to figure out a date. Unless you guys want to do it August without me, does it have your meeting?
It is not your meeting because we're gearing up for the school year.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know how to figure out how to do a date, but can we maybe send out an email, put the dates out, get some from Judy?
Yes.
We can't pick a date without her.
I had her keep the 19th, but I'll email her right now. I would need dates for her to hold, like, just out of curiosity, would the following week, would everybody be here if we did a 5 o'clock board meeting the following week?
No.
Right. So
Yeah, I'm not here that week, sorry.
first week of August.
I'm here, but I'm the only one of my family that's here.
I'm sorry, I'm not here that
Oh,
week.
geez.
I apologize. That's it. After that, I'm back. That's just me, but you can work around whatever you want to do.
Should we send, how about we send out our vacation schedules? If everybody sends their vacation schedules to me or something, and then we can give Judy some dates. Or, you know, the weeks, either the weeks that you're away or the weeks that you're
We
in.
send weeks we're available.
Yes.
Instead of-
All right, if we can do that, then we can kind of try to pinpoint. Thank you. Try to move that along.
If at all possible, for the end of the week, just so I can talk to Judy, because now if we're getting into August, now we're starting to conflict with 100%.
Right.
Or another district nearby.
Yeah, and I just don't want to take up any more time over, like, oh, no, you know, so if we can send that to me as soon as possible. All right, and then new business, reminder, the board member petitions for those who are up for reelection this year, or for any new members of the public who are interested in running, petitions to get onto the ballot are due to the county office by July 25th at 4 p.m. If you go to our agenda online, that's a link that you can click on. So anybody interested in running for one of the open seats next year, you can still run as a write-in, but to be on the ballot, you have to have it in by July 25th. And then the July 19th and August 23rd board meetings, we are going to be relocated to the Reddington Middle School, possibly in the library, the media center, because of the work that will be happening in this building. And then Mrs. Fiore attended the 2022 Equity Conference. Did you want to highlight some of your notes, Mrs. Fiore?
Sure, yeah, I apologize. I meant to reach out earlier and see how much you wanted me to go into detail on this. But basically, the New Jersey School Boards Association put out a equity conference, and I attended. It was back in May. Really, I just have to say, I really love their programming. I think they do a really good job. They had really good speakers come in. It was a virtual session so that everything was recorded. I could go back, stuff I missed, and they had 2 sessions going on, so you could hop into one room or the other. So I went back afterwards and kind of plugged some more stuff into my notes. I sent to everyone, and I really just kind of put down like the highlights, the things that I thought would be useful for our district. Some of the really big takeaways. I know that we've had some comments within the board about, what does equity really mean? Why should we be concerned about that for our district? And I just thought some of the things that the speakers were saying, equity refers to the resources a student needs for succeeding. Giving the students all of the same resources is equality, but giving them specific to what they need is equity. Just some really good guidelines to think about when we're planning things and talking in committee. A lot of the stuff that notes that I took probably are more for Dr. Hart and staff administration. They can kind of go through some of those things. And then really the only last thing that I'll just quickly point out was one of the sessions they were talking about the distinction between diversity, equity, and inclusion, and really, what kind of guiding principles and things we should be thinking about. Diversity asks who is in the room. So that's, who did we invite to be the decision makers? Who is making these decisions? Should we be expanding that pool? Equity is asking who is trying to get in the room but can't. So really be thinking about like who are we leaving out, and really trying to include all voices. And then lastly, inclusion asks how everyone's ideas been heard. So, I thought it was a really good session. This one is not available for all the members. It was just those who had registered, but they do have other resources on the school board's website about this topic. And you can go through, there's like webinars and stuff, and just, I'm happy to talk with anyone more if you want to. But I just think it's something for us to really be thinking and talking about, and I encourage you to look into it yourself also.
Thank you, Mrs. Fiore. Any other new business from the board?
I just want to share that Dr. Hart and I attended the HSA business meeting. Just a couple quick updates from that. They reported that they had really successful book fairs, raising significant sums of money for the HSA. And they held an info session via Zoom to discuss the mission to support our public schools, to get more information out there on what the HSA is and what they can do for our school district. At the time upcoming, which have since happened, there was a social called Uncorked that was held on May 14th, and 2 free movie nights for the district that were held at our elementary schools that played Sing 2. I did attend one of them. It was fantastic. All the kids and the parents had a really great time. School supply kits are on sale for grades K through 8 from now through June 30th. And they recognize board members who were stepping down and rolling off, including Jody, who is exiting as the president, and she's held various positions on the executive committee since 2006. And they voted in their new executive committee board for next year. So everybody was congratulated and acknowledged, and those will be announced. And then I provided an update just from the board on the passing of the budget and our key topics from the last couple of meetings, and Dr. Hart provided a superintendent's update.
Thank you. Any other new business?
On my document too, so I can show Eric. So I might be able to cast it. Just as it's unfinished.
Are you in the meeting?
Yeah, we're in the meeting, so I can't cast, but I have the document I can show.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
I do. In progress. And the word sustainability is in here multiple times.
Okay, moving on, then we are now open to the public items on and off the agenda. And there's no.
Sorry, yeah, Jody, there's, we should read that.
Okay,
Yes,
Wait, a different one?
we do have another one that came in to Jody,
yes,
right?
Oh, okay.
okay.
I saw it, I was aware of it.
Yes, so I just am going to read an email that I got from Mr. Hokema about some outstanding performances of students at Reddington Middle School. So here's his email. Congratulations to our music program for outstanding performances at Hershey's Parks Music in the Parks competition this past weekend. That's confusing, sorry. Hershey Parks Music in the Park competition this past weekend. The orchestra won first place in their division with a rating of superior. The jazz ensemble won first place in their division with a rating of superior. The 8th grade band placed second in their division with a rating of superior. The chorus received a rating of excellent. And 7th grader Nora Kamesi won the Outstanding Jazz Soloist Award. And 8th grader Nally DiStefano won the Outstanding Vocal Soloist Award. The orchestra won the Best Overall Orchestra Award, having scored the highest out of all other orchestras in every division. And the jazz ensemble scored the highest out of any other middle school or junior high school performing ensemble that was there that day. Bravo, everyone. Mr. Hokema is so proud of them all. So wonderful achievements.
Thank you for sharing. Any other public comment? All right, we are now moving on to executive session to adopt the following resolution. In accordance with Sunshine Law, to discuss superintendent's evaluation for approximately 30 minutes, at which time the board expects to return to public session where action shall not be taken. The matters discussed will be made public if and when the circumstances requiring confidentiality no longer exist. However, it is not presently known when such circumstances will exist. Can I get a motion?
So move, Randy.
Second, Carol?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Bevan,
Yes.
Ms. Fiore,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Peach,
Yes.
Mrs. Pivorsky,
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf,
Yes.
Mrs. Rowling,
Yes.
Dr. Sosiello,
Yes.
and Sam Wolf.
Yes. All right. Thank you for coming.
That, there's a separate link for